Hello and welcome to this tutorial on the topic of agreement. There's a lot in this subject, so it will be divided up into two separate tutorials. Now, before we go into what agreement even means, take a look at these 16 sentences and you decide which verb and which pronoun are the correct ones. And here they are. Pause long enough on this screen to come up with your answers, record them, write them down, and the correct choices are, and here they are. Now, I won't be explaining the reasoning behind these correct choices. That's what this tutorial will be all about. But make a note of the areas that you need to work on and pay special attention when I cover that topic in the tutorial. So let's begin with what is agreement? Well, subjects and verbs must agree in number. If the subject is singular, the verb must be. If the subject is plural, the verb must be. We say, he is a man. We don't say, he are a man. We say, they are at home. We don't say, they is at home. That is agreement between subject and verb. So look at these simple sentences. The cat is white. Cat is singular, is singular. The cat eats mice. Again, cat singular, eats is singular. He, she, or it, if those pronouns stand for a noun, they are the subject, they are singular, then you want a singular verb. Now, if you ever get confused as to what is a singular verb, here is a helpful tip. Think of the S in singular that ends singular verbs. Is, eats, plays, works. All those words, all those singular verbs end in S. And plural verbs tend not to end in S. For example, the cats are white. The cats eat mice. We, they, you eat mice too. So in all these situations, look for the subject, identify if the subject is singular or plural, and then based on that, you form the verb that is singular or plural. You want that agreement in number. Now, usually this is easy enough to do. You can find the subject and then following it is the verb, usually right after, but not always. And so we begin some of the complications with this subject of agreement. Sometimes the subject follows the verb. Even in those cases, the verb agrees with the subject. Like in questions, does the playground down near the houses need new tar? What is the subject? It's playground. It comes after the verb. Doesn't matter. The verb is now determined by the number, singular or plural, of the subject. In this case, you want does, singular. Next one is not a question, but still the subject comes after the verb. Of great concern are the rodents that are infesting the house. Rodents is a subject. Rodents is plural, therefore are is plural. Now, beware of the words there and here. They are not the subject. They are pointing to the subject that can be found after the verb. There were a turtle and a snake in the tank. The subject is not the word there. The subject is turtle and snake, a compound subject. It's plural, therefore you want were. Here is a card with your photo. Here is not the subject. It is pointing to card, singular, so is singular. Now, even when the order is typical, like the cat is eating a mouse, when it is subject followed by the verb, there still can be some complications. Like if there is a phrase that comes between the subject and the verb. Well, in that case, ignore the words that come between the subject and the verb. Like the cat between the sheets is eating a mouse. Subject is cat. Singular, you therefore want is. Don't get fooled by that prepositional phrase between the sheets that contains a plural noun. That is not the subject. Subject is cat, therefore the verb choice is based on that subject. The cats in the house are eating a mouse. Same logic here. What is the subject? It's cats. It's not house. Cats is plural. The verb is therefore plural. Now this includes phrases that begin with in addition to, along with, as well as, together with, and this can be confusing. The cat as well as the dog is busy destroying the house. Logically, it appears that you have two subjects going on here, but no, as well as the dog is locked into a phrase that is not the subject. Cat is the subject, singular, so you want is the singular verb. Now, most often it is easy to identify the subject and to identify if it is plural or singular. If it's plural, it usually has an S, or in this instance, with subjects joined by and, they are nearly always plural, like my nose and mouth are quite distinguished. It's plural, it's compound, it is two things, nose and mouth. But there is an exception. When those parts really are one unit, like peanut butter and jelly is a tasty sandwich. Well, think about it. Peanut butter and jelly, yes, combined by the word and, but this is one unit that's being described here. So it's singular, and therefore you want the singular verb. Now that's a situation when you have compound subjects joined by the word and. What if the word is or nor? Well, in that situation, the verb agrees with the closer subject. The teacher or the students are at school today. Well, the subject is either teacher, that's one, and students, that's another. Well, you take of those two, the one closer to the verb, in this case, it's students, plural, then you want the plural are. And that is the logic for the next three sentences. The subject of the two choices that is closer to the verb is determining whether it is singular or plural. So take a look at those on your own. Let me jump down to the last one, which is, what about a question? Well, it's the same guideline, which is, of those two subjects, the one closer to the verb is the one that determines whether it's singular or plural. Like in this case, is either my father or my brothers coming to the show? We have father, we have brothers. The one closer to is the word father. It's singular, then you want is. Once again, it usually is easy to know whether a subject is singular or plural. Pens, caps, bicycles, computers. But there are some words, especially indefinite pronouns, that can be confusing. Indefinite pronouns, they refer to non-specific persons or things. They are usually singular. I'll mention the exceptions in a moment. But words like anybody, anyone, anything, everybody, nobody, no one, somebody, these are singular. And you can hear the singular word in there. Body, one, thing. So take a look at these four samples. You'll notice that the indefinite pronoun, it's singular, nobody or everyone, and therefore takes a singular verb, is or eats, even when there are intervening phrases like who came to the classes or in the caves. Doesn't matter. Indefinite pronouns, this grouping, they're singular, so singular verb. And this is true with another set of indefinite pronouns, each, either, and neither, that are singular. Like each of the essays has been graded. Each is singular, and it can be confusing because there will be a phrase often following it, like of the essays. It could appear plural, but no, that isn't what the subject is. The subject is each. Same with the next one, neither of the porcupines. Neither is singular, is singular, and the subject, not porcupines. That is in a prepositional phrase. So neither is dangerous. So be wary of those words, each, either, neither, they are singular. So that's easy and cut and dry. Those words like each and somebody are always singular, but there is a group of indefinite pronouns that can sometimes be singular, sometimes plural, depending on what they refer to. And these pronouns are some, none, any, all, most, and also fractions. Look at the first set of two sentences. You can see it's the same subject, the word some, but in the first, it's some of the mountain, referring to a singular object, mountain. That makes some singular, so you want is the singular verb. Some of the apples, apples is plural, making some plural, therefore are is plural. Now take a look at the next set of sentences with 3/4 and also with all. Same kind of logic. These are indefinite pronouns that can be sometimes singular, sometimes plural, depending on what they refer to. And they are so unique that it's worth memorizing them. And maybe you can come up with a jingle like I've done with my students where we stand up and have a conga line holding onto each other's hips and we sashay in a circle singing some, none, any, all, most, fraction, some, none, any, all, most, fractions. We kick out our legs at the word fractions. Whatever it takes, if that helps you remember, do it. Now in the same way, there are some collective nouns that can be singular or plural. They usually are singular. These are nouns like jury, audience, class, family, crowd, couple, nouns that are made up of more than one person, but most often they are acting together, and when they are singular. They are acting as one group. Like the family is going on vacation. All 7 people are going to one place. That makes it singular. The class objects to the teacher's homework. All 20 students collectively object to the teacher's homework. They're acting as one. That makes it singular. Now, it can be plural when the group is not acting together. Then the noun is plural, like the class are going to different cities for Christmas. 10 are going to San Francisco, 10 to LA. Therefore, they are not acting collectively as one. They are plural in that sense. The jury disagree on the verdict. The jury, 9 of them innocent, 3 of them guilty. They are not collectively as one unit. They are a plural unit, plural notion there. So in that case, the jury is plural, disagree is plural. And finally, sometimes the word has a plural form, but it's still singular. Words like mathematics, politics, physics, measles, news, they appear plural because they end in S, but they really are a singular thing. Like politics is my favorite subject. Politics ends in an S, but it's just one subject. The news bothers me. Collectively, the news is one thing that I watch at 6 o'clock. Even though it ends in an S, it is singular. The same with some words that are titles and names of companies. The Simpsons, it ends in S, but it's one television show, so it's singular, and the verb is singular. Procter & Gamble makes cleaning products. Procter & Gamble, yes, it's 2 words, but it's one company, therefore it is singular, the verb is singular. And so it is that the subject agrees with the verb. Most often, it's self-evident, it's easy, but as this tutorial is pointing out, there are lots of complex situations. Now the next tutorial will look at pronouns. There's a subject, there's a verb, and sometimes down the line there is a reference back to that subject in a pronoun or an antecedent. Go on to the next tutorial for that, and also there will be some practice questions for you to see how you're doing with the topic of agreement. Okay, so move on to part 2.